This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business That Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. And today's guest I met, I think it's almost 2 years ago. We were both at an event connected with our speaking. So both of us do some speaking. Rachel has gone into it in a bigger way probably than I have. So it'd be good to hear about more about that from Rachel. But before we go any further, I just want to bring your attention to my book, which I've mentioned in the intro. During each show, I introduce the 7-step model, which I call getting the measure of your business, 7 steps. And I will connect what we've been talking about with 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 of those steps to make them sort of come alive. And if you obviously want to know more about that, then you know where to get that information from. That's either you can buy the book from Amazon in Kindle or paperback form, or you can get it from me direct from my website. Okay, right, let's bring on my guest today. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi there, Mark, and thank you so much for having me on the show. Can I just say congratulations on the book? I have thoroughly enjoyed reading it, and I think you cover all of the critical subjects to building a business and a life that you love in a really easy and digestible way. So congratulations on that.
Great, thank you very much for that. That's a good start, isn't it? So before we do anything else, then let's give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you, Mark. So I help leaders to change behaviours for increased and sustainable high performance. I can probably say that I am healthily obsessed with my work and have been for more than 20 years. It's what I would describe as my soul's contract. I absolutely love what I do. So I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm a facilitator, and as you said in the introduction, I'm also a speaker. I grew up in a family business, which I think will be interesting to talk about today. I started work at the age of 12 and I've had the glass-fronted office in the corporate world, and I've now been running my own business for the last 9, nearly 10 years. So I get it. I know how tough some of the challenges are, and I hope that we can dive into some of the conversations and stories and experiences today that will be of interest to your listeners.
I'm sure there will be. There's already there's lots to talk about there on your journey. But let's start with what's most important to me, and I'm sure it is to you, is what motivates you, what gets you out of bed in the morning, or what is your key why that keeps you going in your business?
So, like I said, it's my soul's contract to do what I do, and it wasn't necessarily a straight journey to kind of understand what that was or what that was all about. But for me, it's about making a difference. It's about making a positive difference in the world. There are so many challenges and issues that there are out there. Whilst I've not got the mathematical or the scientific brain, or I won't necessarily be the solution to some of those big challenges that we have in the world. I hope that through the work that I do, I'm able to help sustain and empower and support those leaders and innovators that will be making those changes in the world. And I think, you talk about what motivates me. I guess I'm a bit of a growth junkie, for sure, and there's no way that I want to be sat in my rocking chair at the end of my life kind of thinking, hang on, what did I miss out? I think life is this wonderful opportunity for us to almost be like painters and to create what it is that we want. Of course, life happens, stuff happens that we can't control, but so much of it, we get to choose how we react and how we respond to it, and that excites me. That kind of, that whole idea of what is possible, where could we go, what could we do, what could we create, what could we build. And when human beings come together, I think that just incredible things are possible and can happen.
Mm. Well, I think yeah, you're absolutely right in what you say, and I think we talked briefly before we came on air or came live and started recording about our journeys, and we have, as you mentioned, a similar background in that we were part of a family business, and I learned an awful lot from that. Although there was some great times, but some real challenging times. Some of them would be described as just normal business challenges, but others are particularly pertinent for family businesses that you wouldn't really see them in a normal sort of setup if it wasn't a family business as such. So, what do you think are the key learnings you've made from those different steps that you've talked about with regards to the family business and the corporate career now, even now when you're running your own business?
Well, it's really interesting because having grown up in a family business, I never ever wanted to go into business myself. That's what I took away from it. My mum had two very busy hair and beauty salons, and it was there that I was working there, as I said, from the age of 12 to 21, and it's an incredible experience, but work was everything. It was, it's what we did on the weekends. We went to shop for things for the salon. Bank holidays, we would be redecorating because it was the time when we could do it, when the business was closed. And I think I probably built up quite a bit of resentment to that business as a child, because I felt it was stopping me from doing the things that I wanted to do. Equally, as I got older, it enabled me to have the pocket money and the beer money when I was at university. But I'd seen how much hard work it was and how much it impacted my parents and our lives. And I just thought that I was like, I don't ever want to go into this. I don't ever want to do that. I'm going to work for somebody else so that I can switch off and it's not all my responsibility. And so I went to university. I always thought I wanted to be in some kind of communications or marketing, and essentially kind of climbed that ladder to get to a point that I always thought I wanted to get to. And I had that glass fronted office, I had the team, I had the influence and the impact in the organization and driving the strategy and what was happening. And I kind of got there and I was like, this is not as fulfilling as as I suspected or thought it would be. And if I'm honest, there'd been a whisper on my heart for a really long time that there was something more. And it took quite a long time to build up the courage to really listen to that whisper on my heart. And I can remember the moment that I did it. Funnily enough, I was in the shower getting ready for work one morning, and the whisper kind of came again. And it was the first time I remember properly tuning into it and kind of going, what are you saying? Like, what are you saying? And I remember my feet hitting the bath mat as I stepped out of the shower. And at that point, I'd made a decision. And the decision was that I no longer wanted a job or a career, but I wanted a life's mission. I wanted something that was going to light me up for the rest of my life, recognizing that it would be ever evolving. But that's what I wanted to look for. And so that was the decision that I made at that point.
Mm.
And it took several years. It wasn't a straightforward answer. Oh, so now you're going to go in and do this. I remember it being at least kind of 3 years of kind of exploring with excitement and possibility the things that lit me up, the stuff that I was excited about that I could talk about, and you lose all track of time and that kind of thing. And I guess, and ultimately that led me to kind of this making a difference and building the business that I now have, which consults for high profile large corporates, working with senior leaders and C-suite, to make sure that people have got that human capacity and sustainability and high performance, and making that positive difference in the world that I was talking about. And and I don't think that will ever stop evolving or growing. I certainly hope it doesn't. But I recognise that the way that my parents did things was not necessarily the way that I needed to do things. And
Right.
whilst I'm still absolutely a work in progress with this, I think work and life can be integrated, and integrated in a way that gives you time and financial freedom, as well as doing something that you really love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back to the family business thing, and similar experience I had, it was almost like you're obliged to get involved, aren't you? And and you see all your friends like, oh, what are you doing at the weekend, or what are you doing for
Mm.
the bank holiday, and you think, same as normally, I'm helping in the business because that's almost like my duty. And like you say, the resentment does tend to build up because you think that is there nothing else I can do, can't I do something different, and the thing is also is that you can't do anything as a family very easily as well, because it means almost, well, you have to shut the business, you have to go on a family outing, that you miss out on those family outings. So but we don't want to paint a doom and gloom thing. I mean, there's also a lot you learn in those scenarios. I think it's a great way to learn some hard lessons, I suppose, and that's one of the things that I guess we're on the same page with regards to motivating you and fulfilling. And when you've been doing something for a long time that isn't that, then you know that you need to go away from it. And so when we talk about motivation, sometimes the strongest motivator is the thing that pushes away from something that you don't want. And a classic example is when, like, people are driven by money, and they say, well, it's not all about money, and what it is actually the fear of not having any money that drives them forward, but from not have that situation. So that's interesting what you say with regards to the family business, and then obviously your corporate, another scenario there where you've got to where you thought wanted to be, but then it's not quite measured up. But you're now back in sort of in that environment in a different capacity now, aren't you? So you're serving that audience in a completely different way.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely, and loving it, and absolutely loving it.
that's good to hear. So let's go. Let's talk about then the power of speaking, and why you speak particularly, and why you've gone into it in a big way.
So for me, and I think if I recall rightly, Mark, we met at the welcome day for the Professional Speaking Association, which
That's
is an
right.
association
Yeah,
we're
in
a
Birmingham.
part of. And for me, the reason why I joined was because through my training and through my coaching, I understand the importance of the words that we speak. And I wanted, for me, I thought there's got to be something that this gang can teach me about how I can have greater influence and impact to make that positive difference. That it comes back to that why, and that kind of what's driving me. And so that's why I joined. And it's been an incredible journey in that time. I applied to do something that's called the Speaker Factor, which is a competition that is run in the regions, and then there's semi-finals and finals that happen at the national conference that takes place each year. And the year that I was involved was actually the Global Speakers Summit. So the Professional Speaking Association UK and Ireland were hosting the Global Speakers Summit that year. And so we were over in Dublin for that. And yeah, it was I didn't win, but it was an incredible experience to try and put a message together in just 5 minutes and communicate that. So I learned a huge amount from that. And I think more than that, I think it really immersed me in this community that is willing to help support one another. And you talk about this in your book, that we don't do things alone, and the importance of that support network. And when I entered that competition, there were so many people that, if I just asked, were willing to give their time freely to help support me, help me understand how to put something like that together, and support me on that journey, and along that way. And yeah, so it's a fabulous community, and a very supportive one. I don't know, Mark, how you found it in your region and in your area.
Yeah, well, I was a member for a year. I didn't. I like you did the speaker factor thing and putting something together that's 5 minutes, and you know that you're not allowed to go over, and then you're going to be judged. I mean, it's something that you just throw yourself into, and I didn't make it through to Ireland, sadly. But it was, you learn from these experiences, and that's one of the things that you do learn is that you've got to put yourself out there, give it a go, value the feedback, and it's feedback is valuable from the right people. So if you're getting it from people that know what they're doing and they're not giving you feedback just for the sake of it, then and there's no value in it, then that's why a lot of people sort of shy away from it. But when you're in that environment with lots of people that know what they're doing, have had experience, then it's there to suck up and learn from, so that we can improve and get better at speaking. And I mean, with regard to the value of speaking, I speak at sort of networking events and all that sort of stuff when I've ever got the opportunity, and it's definitely benefited my business in many ways, with regards to connecting with new clients and allowing my business to grow. So have you got particular things that you can attach to, your speaking events and how you've done it and then what's come from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like you, it's a great way to be able to add value, create connection, help people feel seen, heard, and understood. Um, and that creates a connection, and a conversation which may or may not lead to business. And so I'm sure, very similar to you, I have kind of run events for things like my local chamber of commerce, whether they be online or in person. I'm part of some networking events, and again, I've got something coming up actually next week, for one of my networking events that I help to facilitate. Again, it's an opportunity for me to help facilitate some good discussion and conversation, and share some things that may well be of value to that audience. And I do it without attachment to the outcome. I think that's really important as well. That actually, to be a go-giver in that situation, that actually I'm here to help and support and serve, first and foremost. And I think people really feel that. And coming back to the whole speaking thing, you're absolutely right, and there's people that have got lots of experience in this, but I also feel it's quite a subjective subject and topic as well. And people very often just they either feel you or they don't. They get your heart or they don't. And I think, to anybody that's listening out there, yes, there are skills, and it is a craft, and there are things that you can master and learn. And I'm very much on the beginning of my journey with that. But I also think that people feel you, and to be able to speak from your heart and speak with with passion and from a place of wanting to support and help others. I think people get that, and that, I think, is what helps magnetize people to you and your business.
For sure, yeah. I mean, there's nothing worse than going to a networking event when someone's speaking and it becomes like a pitch. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. And like you say, if you're speaking to share knowledge and give a message out that people are going to get some value from, that should be your only sort of focus. And anything comes from it is a bonus, and that's definitely what I found. I've definitely not gone to do a speaking gig to get clients, but then it's just a natural thing that might happen, because they might introduce you to somebody that they say, well, I think you should speak to so and so, and then then you end up doing a workshop with a group of individuals that you would never have got to do if you hadn't been speaking at that event. So you just join up the dots, don't you?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was going to ask you about how your business has been developing. Again, before we started recording, you just told me that business has been expanding, so you've had to sort of add a few people to your team to help you cope with the extra work. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so I have, in the last year, I've taken on two virtual assistants. They are more than virtual assistants. They're absolutely fabulous, fabulous people that work with me on a lot of different areas of my business. So very fortunate to have them on my team. I have to admit that there was some trepidation from my point of view around, like, actually, how could I find good people? And I was very lucky. One of my mentors, she's been working with these two individuals for the last 10 years, and she was like, they've got some capacity, why don't you talk to them? So they came very highly recommended, and that was I think finding the right people for your team, people that understand you, that get you, that know, and that know what you're looking to achieve and where you're wanting to go. Really, really, really important. And I guess it takes a little bit of time, having been a solo entrepreneur, to start to hand over those reins as well, and to sort of, and it's been great because it's immobilized me and it's enabled me to do so much more of the stuff that, and again, you talk about this in your book, so much more of the things that I love to do, because, they're able to kind of do stuff that they're really, really good at. And it just means that we can move quicker and faster and in a more efficient and effective way.
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, I also consider as part of my team my business coach, who I have been working with. So I've had a coach for more than 10 years consistently.
Right.
So I meet every week with my coach. My business coach I've been working with probably for the last 4 years. And, again, I know this is something you talk about in your book. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because we're kind of just at that stage where we're revisioning, I can't get my words out, revisioning for the business. So I think it comes round, doesn't it? Like, you have it's really important to have, like, I can see the next step, but actually at the moment I'm looking at what comes beyond that next kind of summit. And just taking some time to really kind of imagine and consider and check in with myself, what is it that I really want to build? And so it's kind of exciting because we've got to this point where we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We know what we're going for next, but then it's kind of okay, and what comes beyond that? And I think it's always important for us as business owners to have that view on what comes beyond the, kind of that next horizon. And it might not need to be super, super, super clear, but at least you've got, it's almost like your North Star. Exactly, kind of know where you're headed.
Mm. So you've covered two really important things there. We've talked about the importance of having a tribe that we can sort of, lean on and support us when we need them, and also having someone like a coach, or some people join a mastermind. Just accountability, and having that balance of challenge and support that we all need. Because when we are on our own, we're trying to build a business on our own. The last thing we want is actually to feel we're on our own. So we need these people to keep us, on track. And when we're having a tough time, that we can just reach out to them, and they're there for us, just to lend an ear. And those sort of things are important, and and push us forward when they see that we're maybe not maybe grasping the opportunities that they can see that we should be going for. Definitely had a few of those with my clients recently, with opportunities that are there staring at me. I could see for them, it's like an opportunity for them to grab, and there's my opportunity to jump in and say, and challenge them to say, this is your opportunity to step up and seek the opportunity and grasp it for what it is. So thank you for sharing that. It's really important. So what about the actual work that you do, in your actual work, and what sort of things? I talk about every business is set up to solve a problem. So what would you see as the biggest problem that you overarchingly sort of solve for other businesses?
So it all stems down to that human capacity, sustainability, and high performance. So it's, how do we get the best out of ourselves and our teams, moments to moments? And a big part of that I am, I think I've used this before, you said before, healthily obsessed with, is you talk about making sure that you fit your own oxygen mask first. And one of the things I work a lot with leaders around is just how they do that. Because whilst people might recognize and know, well, I need the sleep and the nutrition should be right and the exercise and the daylight and social connections and time with people who I love and care about. And like they know it cognitively, but so many leaders don't actually practice that. So for me, helping them to create that behavioral change where they are actually practicing it for themselves, but not only that, we're talking with these leaders about how leading by how the I think so often things like our feelings and emotions and moods, it feels intangible for leaders. It feels like a bit of a bit of something that they don't really get into. Whereas actually it doesn't have to be that way. And I think it's one of the most important things that we can do as leaders is look at, right, well, how are we in a good position? So from a mood and emotional perspective, we are, restored and in a good space so that we can operate at our best. We will be more empathetic. We will, be able to deal with stresses and we'll have greater bandwidth for all of that. We will have more energy, all of that stuff. So how do we look after that in ourselves first and foremost, which I know is exactly where your book starts. And then, well, as leaders.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant stuff. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to take a breather, and just I'm going to share a little bit about the 7 steps model in the book, and just sort of join the dots, I guess, with regards to what we've been talking about. This always comes up with regards to understanding ourselves, with especially if we're going to run our business. We've got to be clear about why we're doing it. And it appears, Rachel, you are absolutely 100% clear about why you do what you do. And I seem to remember when you completed your motivational map, it was searcher, off the scale. It's about making a difference and doing something meaningful and purposeful. And you're clear about that, and you know what difference you want to make. So that's clear. So if you're going to start a business, a lot of people don't start here. They go straight into the next step, which is the evaluation, and start thinking about, well, what's a business going to be about? And they've missed that initial step of understanding themselves, because we've already talked about that we've had different experiences. You've had your business, your family business, and your sort of corporate experiences, and I've had my family business. And we don't want to go and repeat what we've already done. We've learned some lessons, but we don't just want to do exactly the same. So we need to understand ourselves before we get to this evaluation stage with regards to where are we now, where do we want to be in a few years' time, and how we're going to think about how we're going to get there from A to B or A to Z or whatever it is. So that's one of the things that crops up a lot with my clients, but this doesn't come up that often, and I'm really passionate about this. Systemizing our business is which allows our business to grow, and you've talked about your VAs that you need now to allow you to grow and do the things that they do best. That's the thing. And I talk about in the book, it's who, not how. And so one of my clients at the moment was telling me about some fandangle thing that he was been working on with regards to marketing. And I just said, is this something that you should be doing, or is it something you should find somebody else to do? And so systemizing is about, firstly, making sure that you're doing the things that you're best at, and you're not getting dragged into doing all the things that you don't really want to do and probably you're not very good at. Find people to do those things. And systemizing is about, so you don't have to worry about things happening. So if you've got good systems, and we'd learned this in our family retail business, because when we came to sell it, the systems actually were all in place and we didn't really have to do much else. And that's the value. If you're setting up systems, you actually increase the value of the business. Not that you might not be thinking about selling it, but it just makes it a more valuable proposition, and you're easier to be replaced, because ultimately that's what we want to think about, is if we wasn't here, how can I be replaced? And if you've got good systems in place, then that's more likely to happen.
And I know we talked about the VAs, but actually there's been so much that I've done around that: the systems, the processes, the consistent that enables you to build the business. And I've started with some systems, and they've evolved, and I've moved on to new ones. And and there's always those sometimes there's those teething problems with those, and kind of getting used to new systems, but always looking for how you can improve the effectiveness of what you're doing, and how you're operating.
Yeah. Even when I've set up this podcast and this show, I've learnt more experiences with regards to systemizing everything, so you don't keep repeating the same thing. So I've got something I sent for initial short video, and then a follow-up video to watch to explain, well, how do you get the most from your episode and all that sort of thing. So it's done once, and then it's repeated. You just send the same thing to everybody, and you don't have to keep doing those same things time and time again. Right, sadly, Rachel, we've 30 minutes has already whizzed by. But before we go, is there anything that you'd particularly like to share with regards to some tips with regards to what you do, or anything that you spring to mind that you'd like to share as a sort of parting gift to the listeners and the viewers?
I guess it's just to say that that belief and that vision, holding on to that belief, trusting in that, and what you're doing is so important, because being in business you describe it as a journey. It is a journey, and sometimes it can be a bit of a roller coaster of a journey as well. So stay connected and supported by people, good people around you. I had to intentionally build that network, the coaches, the mentors, that the tribe within the PSA. I intentionally sought that out. So yeah, keep supported, keep focused, and just follow your heart and do what you love.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. It's been great to reconnect. We haven't spoken for so long, and it's almost like it's only been a few weeks since we last spoke, because we've had so many things that we've shared. So thank you for sharing what you've shared, and hopefully we can catch up again very soon.
Thank you, Mark.
So there we are. There's Rachel. She is somebody that I would highly recommend you connect with. She has got lots to share, and she shares a passion of leadership and getting everybody to enjoy their work, the same as like I do. So reach out to connect with Rachel. Just before we go then, just to remind you that a lot of the things we talked about is in my book. Rachel kindly mentioned a few things that particularly resonate with her. And I shared the 7-step model, and there is 2 preceding chapters that talk about looking after yourself as key, and also realizing that you've got to enjoy the journey, however tricky it is. It's part of it is actually realizing that the ups and downs actually gives us value, and we can use those things to grow. So there we are. Thank you for listening. If you joined us live, thank you for being here. If you catch this on replay, don't hesitate to leave any comments. If there's any questions for me or Rachel, then please reach out. So until the next time, the next episode of the show, take care, and we'll see you next time.